or so to hit Maine, but now we're seeing suspected fraud, all kinds of Medicaid programs. This is where we also see the similarities: daycare programs, housing programs, non-emergency transportation programs. All seems to be the same playbook.
I knew that this was coming with all the stuff that's going on in Minnesota, and I told you guys that this Somali probe had branches, and the branches were spreading all throughout America, man. So they started out with the probe in Minnesota. They went over to Seattle. They went over to Seattle, Washington. They went over to Columbus, Ohio. Now they're up in Maine, and they're finding out that the same scams that was being ran in Minnesota are identical to this to what's going on in Maine, and they've been uncovering this. Now the thing is this: these Somalis done pissed these W folks off. Trump is back in office, and they want, like they say, make America great again. They want their country back. And I'm only saying that because a lot of these Somalis, they came here and they thumbed their nose up at black Americans, and they said that they're not black, they're Somali, and that's fine, right? But not just that, they talked down and didn't want to be a part of us. But now, as soon as things come crashing down, they want to, they want help. But we're finding out that this thing is widespread and it's all across the country. And this is what the people in Maine is uncovering.
Minnesota, Maine, two different states, but with plenty of similarities when it comes to Medicaid fraud. The independent journalist who's been pointing out the incredible similarities and sounding the alarm joins us next. I was kind of in shock listening to you, hearing about the many similarities that we've been reporting on for years now. The explosive growth in Medicaid programs, the amount of spending, the lack of oversight, the politicians involved in all of it. It was really incredible to hear your take on this. What is your perspective, how this is all playing out based on the work that you've done in Maine, Steve?
Well, I too am. I find the similarities and the differences remarkable, but the way that the programs are being systematically exploited by very committed groups of actors who appear to have connections to foreign countries, or at least foreign political factions, is eerily similar. And we find time and time again, when we're looking into organizations that have suspicious billing patterns within the Maine Care program, that when we find clusters of these, for example, home care LLCs at a given address, and we go knock on the doors and nobody's home, 2 weeks in a row, nobody is home during normal business hours, and it appears that there's nobody at home in the entire commercial office building. We'll look into those businesses and the owners, and we'll find that they've also got LLCs in Minnesota, and they've also got properties in Minnesota. So we find these connections all the time, and it leads me to believe that we're not dealing with, as the national media has suggested, a separate and discrete scandal under Governor Tim Walz in Minnesota, and a separate and discrete scandal in Maine under Governor Janet Mills. These are really the same thing. They're different parts of the elephant, so to speak. But it's one organization that I believe is backed by nation state level actors. I think the government of Somalia is backing this as a nation building project to increase the flow of remittance money into the country.
It certainly seems the evidence is all there pointing to just that. In Minnesota, we suffered fraud at a massive scale with the $250 million Feeding Our Future scandal. In so many ways, accountability has been avoided, though. In Maine, you had 78 people indicted with the Feeding Our Future. Developments and the timing really match up here, Steve. Medicaid expanded tremendously during the Obama administration. You spoke about that a bit. It took about until 2019 or so to hit Maine, but now we're seeing suspected fraud, all kinds of Medicaid programs. This is where we also see the similarities: daycare programs, housing programs, non-emergency transportation programs. All seems to be the same playbook.
Yeah, the interesting thing is everybody is coming to me and saying, "Hey, are you looking for the daycare facilities in Maine? Where are all the daycare facilities?" Well, we have a similar program with a similar acronym, but what we really have is a blossoming of personal support services. So under our Maine Care rules, you can be paid for providing assistance with the tasks of daily living.
Then we come to this man, Chris Bernardini, right? He worked for the Somali healthcare service for 7 years as a contractor. And, he found out that it was a lot of fraud going on. And he was one of the first ones to blow the whistle. And he went to the government to, he wanted protection from against these Somalis, because he was coming out against them to say, hey, listen, there's a lot of stuff going on here that don't look like it's on the up and up, man. You guys need to come. So once he starts seeing a probe going on in Minnesota, his tentacles went up. Now I told you, man, listen, when we tried to warn y'all about how racist some of these people can be in America, y'all didn't want to listen, right? But now this man, he was talking to News Nation, and he was spilling the beans and just telling the whole story.
I thought that we were doing the right thing this whole time. And the more I started digging, the more I started finding. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, that this was happening and that I was part of this.
Chris Bernardini spent 7 years working for Gateway Community Services, a Somali American-led health services contractor in Maine. Bernardini alleges Gateway oversaw a system in which false records were filed about client visits. And he says they charged taxpayers for providing services that were never performed.
We started getting some clients saying that, calling and saying, you know, months later that their client owed them hours. They hadn't come in for these shifts and stuff. But I had a time card for it.
And then they were billing for it.
They were billing for it.
In March of 2022, Gateway received a notice of violation from the state's Maine Care Services Program Integrity Unit based on an audit of records taken at random from January 2017 through December of 2018. Gateway overbilled by an estimated $904,000.
In your professional opinion, what you saw was fraud?
Absolute.
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it.
But Bernardini says when the pandemic hit, it got worse.
I started seeing bonuses, $2,000 bonuses going to these staff that had only been with us for 2 weeks, never worked a shift with a client. And yet the PPP loan comes, you're giving $2,000 away like they're lollipops at a doctor's office.
In April of 2024, Bernardini wrote to the Department of Homeland Security seeking whistleblower protection. They referred him back to the state of Maine. Nearly a year later, Gateway fired Bernardini.
I still can't believe it. I still can't believe I took so much of my time and put so much of my life into this agency that just tossed me aside. It's caused me to reflect a lot and, you know, try to trust my gut more and speak up more when I see something. It's not right.
Now, this whole thing just seems stank and fishy to me, because either those W folks up there in Maine ain't racist, or they was in on it, right? You know, getting kickbacks, or this guy's just an idiot or something, right? Because all of a sudden you just trust these Somalis to just go work for them in America. Yeah, right. The W man don't operate like that, because they darn sure ain't rocking with black Americans that way. So what I'm noticing here is a lot of W folks was real friendly and loving towards these Somalis in Seattle, in Maine, in Columbus. Like racism don't exist. That's what I'm starting to notice. Like, these Somalis they had carte blanche to just do whatever they want to do. I mean, am I wrong in the comment section? Tell me if I'm wrong, because that's what it's looking like to me. The stuff that black Americans experience, they was living the American dream, right? So you got this W man, he over there working with these melanated folks, and until he saw something crazy, and then he went to blow the whistle. But let's look at this dude, Abdullah Ali, the one that was getting all this $5 million, and he was getting all kinds of money, and he was allegedly shipping his money back overseas, right? He was running for president in Jubaland and all this stuff. Now, all this stuff the branches all ties back in to different cities across America.
I'm Christine Frizzell in Washington, where GOP lawmakers say they've launched an investigation into fraud by members of the Somali community in Minnesota. But that probe may be expanded to the state of Maine, where shocking new allegations are now in the spotlight.
Another accusation of fraud by a Somali American, this time in the state of Maine. At the center of the alleged scheme, Dr. Abdullahi Ali, the executive director of the health services contractor Gateway Community Services.
I started seeing bonuses, $2,000 bonuses going to these staff that had only been with us for 2 weeks, never worked a shift with a client.
A whistleblower alleging that for years, false records were filed for services that were never provided. The agency then reimbursed with tax dollars from Maine's Medicaid program, with overbilling by more than $900,000. But that's not all. While serving in his role in Maine, Ali also was running for president of Jubaland in Africa, where he boasted to a Kenyan media outlet that he helped raise funds for the Jubaland Somali army to help the troops buy weapons, bullets, and food.
It's disgusting to me that they would do this.
State Senator Matt Harrington is calling for an investigation, which he says Maine's governor should have launched months ago.
You can't rob a bank for millions of dollars. You shouldn't be able to rob taxpayers of millions of dollars and just get away with it. There absolutely needs to be a criminal investigation into this immediately.
The alleged incident sharing similarities with one in Minnesota, deemed the largest pandemic relief fraud scheme by former Attorney General Merrick Garland. More than $1 billion of taxpayer money stolen, the majority of those charged Somali American.
This just isn't about Minnesota. This just isn't about the Somali community. This is about every state and every social program, because we believe that this is happening in other states.
So now we're hearing that Trump is removing their protective status, and you have thousands of Somalis that are going to be deported, or they have to report somewhere. Like it's just getting crazy, man. Donald Trump ain't playing, man. It's so bad, man, and so unpresidential. He said this about them.
It's almost not even believable. This very stupid, low IQ governor. He's a very stupid man, because I had a campaign against him with JD, and he's a stupid man, and he's a corrupt politician, and the Somalians are ripping off our country to the tune of, looks like $19 billion, but that's only what they can find. So usually when you're looking at 19, that would mean it could be 50, but the numbers are astronomical. Think of it, they have a dead country, they don't have government, they don't have anything, they don't have a military, all they do is run around shooting people and trying to capture ships. We don't let them take ships anymore. You know why? We use the same exact missile on them that we use on the drug carriers, and it's very effective. So you notice there's nobody capturing ships anymore? Because as they head out to go capture the ship, and the ship doesn't want to fire back because it's very flammable stuff in many cases, and the insurance companies don't want, because they build $1 billion ship, and they don't want anybody firing rockets into the ship. But we're hitting them so hard, and it's very similar. Same missile system. It's called deadly accurate. And do you notice that ships aren't being taken anymore? The pirates are.
That's right. I hadn't thought about
the pirates aren't. Well,
no Somali pirates.
It's actually very easy. They head out. We say, guess what? There's pirates. That's the end of the pirates.
Let's get back to Liz Collin when she was doing her interview of Steve Robinson. He's the chief editor of the Maine Wire, and they was reporting on this, and they was correlating how this probe has branches all throughout America, and how they was able to funnel billions of dollars back over to Africa, and they was uncovering this.
These could be shopping for groceries, cleaning your house, bathing, very basic things. And if you get qualified for that, if you get on Medicaid and you're qualified for that, you can get these services from a company like Gateway. And there's a huge expansion of the number of people who are qualified for these services, and each one of them becomes a meal ticket for these LLCs that provide home-based services. Because if you get one of those people as your clients, you're tapping into funding from MaineCare, guaranteed funding from MaineCare. And it's an open question as to whether these services are actually being provided because of the level of manipulation that's allowed on the electrical verification system. But this system, which was meant for accountability, allows the administrator of this company to log into the back end and, just as easy as typing numbers into an Excel spreadsheet, invent fake service hours provided and then send it to the state of Maine. The state of Maine automatically pays it. And only later, maybe 2 years later, will they look back, audit a batch of those claims, and if they see something that's fishy, then they'll start to dig a little bit deeper. But you can go and bill the state of Maine up to $1 million, be audited, and then they'll turn off the spigot eventually when you can't show any documentation for any of the services you claim to have provided. But there's never any criminal charges. You don't pay the money back. You just abandon the business and you can go start another MaineCare business And we have evidence of that happening. We have public records showing the same exact people abandoning businesses during an audit, starting new ones, and they continue to bill over millions of dollars to the Maine care system.
You know, whenever there are credible accusations, political deflections seem to follow. Here in Minnesota, you are a racist or Islamophobe, according to politicians and the complicit mainstream media in Minnesota. And that's even if you're just stating the obvious, which is here that 90% of those charged with fraud these last few years in these Medicaid schemes are Somali. What's the situation like there in Maine with all of this regarding the facts about fraud and what seems to be deflection by design?
Well, the media here in Maine ignored this story. Again, I first started reporting on Gateway in March, and again, reported the whistleblower allegations in May. And the media in Maine did not report on any of this until 2 weeks after it was a national firestorm. And of course, your reporting was emerging in Minnesota, and Minnesota was capturing headlines. So it took a full 2 weeks of the national media hounding this story. I mean, I think we might have had a House oversight investigation before the Bangor Daily News or the Portland Press Herald even noticed this story. So they were very diligently, adamantly, almost straining their necks to look away from this story. And it's all for the same reasons that you just mentioned. They're afraid, they're scared to do any reporting that's critical of a Somali person is somehow racist and bad. No one's condemning or standing up for the Maine Wire's press freedom or our right to access public records in the way that they would for any other outlet in the state of Maine. It's very, very bizarre the way the mainstream outlets have handled this, both in Minnesota and here in Maine.
Almost scary, really, hearing how similar this all is, like looking in a mirror.
You had years of scams going on. You had audits and everything. Red flags were raised and everything went on deaf ears. A lot of this stuff was ignored. Like he said, it took them weeks just to get the news cameras to come down and report on it. And then when you was reporting on it, they was calling it racist. So you clearly have an agenda. Now, you always going to have fraud. You're going to have fraud. It's been going on in this country forever. The W man and the woman is the ultimate fraudster, right? But they're not the topic right now. The topic is this illegal, as these immigrants coming in here and running fraud across America and funneling money back overseas. And when red flags were brought up, because this stuff didn't happen overnight. Right? The Democrats been knew about this, but some things they was trying to handle under the wraps. They didn't want this to go mainstream news. They didn't want this to pop off everywhere. But when Trump got it back in the office, he blew the lid off of everything. Right? And, now he's trying to run them out the country. And like I said, when these audits were done, a lot of things went on deaf ears. They told you to keep the stuff under your hat. They try to keep it quiet. But now it's out there, man, and people are going up to daycares. They're going to schools. They're going to these Medicare places. They're doing citizens are doing investigations themselves to uncover what the news and the police wouldn't. So as more of this come out, I'll report more of it. But if you made it this far in the video, hit that like button, subscribe to Street Media TV, leave your comments in the comment section, and remember, I love y'all. Till the next time, peace.